Everybody, welcome into another episode of Bulls Latest. Your host, Matt Johnson here. I want to wish everybody out there a happy and safe 4th of July. And let's get right into today's show. The Bulls have finalized their Summer League roster, topping it off with Modest Buzelis. He will get some valuable playing time this summer. I love this move by the Bulls. And for him, I think he could definitely benefit from developing his game ahead of this next season. Noah Senge, the first-round selection, will be included on this roster. Excited to see him kickstart his Bulls career as well and finally get on the floor for this organization. They have also included second-round pick Lachlan Olbrich. I'm excited to see him get some valuable playing time with the Bulls as well to see what he brings to the table. Let's go over some of the other names that are included on this roster. You have guard Javon Freeman Liberty. He's a one-year player who played with the Toronto Raptors last year out of DePaul, actually. So he played his college ball in Chicago. That's an interesting name there. Guard Caleb Grill, the rookie out of Mizzou, is included here. William Hickey, a guard out of the Illawarra Hawks organization in Australia. So he was a teammate of Lachlan Olbrich's. That's an interesting guy to note. Yuki Kawamura, a guard as well. He played 1 year with the Memphis Grizzlies in his rookie campaign last season. He's a fan favorite over in Japan, so it'll be interesting to watch him get some playing time. Emmanuel Miller, a guy I previously profiled out of TCU, but he's a two-way contract guy who I'm excited to finally see what he brings to the table as well. And you also have names Micah Parrish, the forward out of Ohio State. Mozina Pereira, a huge player over in Brazil. He gets a shot with the Chicago Bulls. So I'm excited to see him. I know looking on social media, a lot of Brazil is stoked that this guy got a chance to play with Chicago this summer. Guard Wook Poplar out of Villanova. You got guard Josh Primo out of Bama and guard Jameer Young out of Maryland. So that rounds out this group this summer. Excited to have the Bulls kick off their Summer League slate on July 11th. We're just a week away from that now. So we'll keep an eye on how that continues to develop. I mean, I'm really excited to see Modest and Noah Senge on the floor together. Those are going to be the two guys to watch. And then obviously Lachlan Olbrich, a second rounder there with some promise for the Chicago Bulls. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'll continue to recap the Bulls summer slate for you guys and look at some different angles of this summer in terms of how they could benefit the Bulls and how things look. So kind of shifting gears here into a trade scenario I wanted to talk about. This move has the Bulls hypothetically sending Pat Williams, Zach Collins, and Javon Carter to the Phoenix Suns for Bradley Beal. I know I've talked about Bradley Beal previously. Not a name that Bulls Nation is so thrilled about. I think what they are thrilled about, what I would be thrilled about, is including Pat Williams in this move. I think I would definitely move a guy like Pat Will for Bradley Beal, at least for where they're at right now. It makes some sense. I think the Suns could flip Javon Carter and Collins if they wanted to for more assets while keeping Williams because those are two expiring deals. Zach Collins did look really good for the Bulls, though, coming over after that Levine trade as a piece of that. So if you're Phoenix, it'll be interesting to see if they definitely would do something like this. I think they're obviously proactively trying to trade Beal. Now, Beal is said to have been kind of selective and picky on where he wants to end up, which is interesting for a guy who's kind of struggled the last couple of years. So the kicker here for the Suns in this scenario is that Williams has 4 years, $72 million left on his deal. So you'd be taking a guy with some baggage there who, again, hasn't panned out. The upside on Williams, though, is his age. He's still a very young player, and they could kind of revitalize his abilities there in Phoenix. So we'll see. That's something to keep an eye on. More of a wild trade scenario there for you guys. And talking more about, or continuing to talk about Josh Giddy as well as Nikola Vucevic. I want to start with Giddy here. There has been another update. ESPN's Bobby Marks provided some insight on the current situation for Giddy as of recently, saying that the Bulls and Giddy are about a Gulf of Mexico apart on a deal. Not surprising. I talked about Brian Windhorst reporting on this as well. So that's two notable ESPN reporters kind of stating the same thing and how far apart the Bulls are to a deal with Giddy. Both sides seem to be playing hardball in negotiations, which for the Bulls, I kind of talked about this yesterday, but they should do this, especially with the way the Pat Williams mistake went down. I think this is a good opportunity for the Bulls to learn from how they've done things for once. They've failed to do so previously, so I think it's nice that the Bulls are taking this approach. It's a no-brainer, especially after Brooklyn making that Cam Johnson for Michael Porter Jr. trade. That takes the one big suitor kind of out of talks. So for Giddy, I know it's a lot more unpleasant. What you need to watch if you're the Bulls, however, is that signing Giddy to a qualifying offer would be a worst case scenario for them. He would then be able to be free to move anywhere in the NBA next summer, and you don't want that. I think keeping Giddy around is a good scenario for the Bulls at this point, but getting him at value is important. But you don't want to wait too long to where you mess it up again and kind of move past the window and when to do things. So we'll continue to look at that. I just wanted to, take a look at ESPN's Bobby Marks remarks on that. Interesting that he says that they're still that far apart in a deal. So now it's kind of widely known that that's where they stand right now. And it could be a while until we see something done. Kind of talking about Nikola Vucevic, interesting development, and I'm not all that surprised, quite honestly. Talks and chatter of him being moved were very hyper towards the beginning of this offseason. Now they've kind of quieted. The door to trade Vooch is shutting fast, and I'm not all that surprised. There hasn't been that much interest in him as of recent, days here. So he's not not a guy who teams are looking at saying, okay, we got to add him. There is interest, but it's not all that strong at the moment, which is interesting that the market's drying up on him at this moment in time. I think for the Bulls, you have to remain proactive in trying to move him, especially if you really want to make it a priority to get this done. It's going to be on the Bulls' watch. And unlike Vucevic, a guy like Al Horford, who has been now rumored to be at the forefront of being moved to Golden State over Vooch, Horford's an unrestricted free agent, so the Warriors can add the 39-year-old Horford without having to give up assets in doing so, and that's different than it is the case for Vucevic. Golden State would have to give something back for a Vooch move there, so it may be more appealing for Golden State to add a guy like Horford. Now, I know there have been reports that Horford is considering retirement, which is interesting. So there have also been some reports out there that he is getting close to a deal to transition over to Golden State. So if you're the Bulls, I think if that happens, you have one team that is a glaring prospect to adding Vooch, and that's Boston. They move on from Porzingis. He shifts to Atlanta. You got Horford. If he goes to Golden State, you got a team in flux there, at least for the next season. And with Vooch having one more year left on his deal, kind of gives Boston a guy they could plug in with Jaylen Brown and Derek White. Anthony Simons is there. That's a name I talked about potentially being moved over to the Bulls, but keep an eye on Boston, especially if Horford moves his way to the Western Conference and the Golden State Warriors there. So, and I know, speaking of the Warriors, with the Kuminga talks, the Warriors are now rumored to want a promising young player and a first-round pick in a sign-and-trade for Kuminga, for anybody of that matter that they're trying to move. So if you're the Bulls, you want to keep an eye on that. I think, if this Horford move gets done, then you should attack Boston in the sense of kind of pitching to them. You guys need something here, and Vooch could offer that. And he comes with a one-year deal, so it's not like they're tied to him that much longer. So after that next season at least. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. I think the Giddy thing is going to be a wait and see approach. I like that personally for this Bulls team. I think it's a no-brainer decision, something they really shouldn't mess up and can't. So overall, I think we're going to continue to look at these two guys in specific as we move through the offseason and through the summer league schedule here. So you'll be hearing a lot from me on these two guys until something gets done for the both of them. And overall, I just want to thank you guys for joining me on another episode of Bulls Latest. I hope you guys have a happy and safe 4th of July out there, and we will see you next time.